8 most dangerous prison inmates. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today we will share who the 8 most dangerous prison inmates are. Society has significantly evolved from what it used to be. Now everyone has the freedom to be who they want to be and do what they want to do. Nothing is holding you back from doing anything you want to do unless what you decide to do affects other people negatively. Who gets to decide that, you ask? A person with a super cool hammer called a judge who has the power to take away your freedom and a lot of those rights if you are found guilty of what is called a crime. Freedom has its limitations, you see. You can only be free when you follow special rules on how to behave in society. These rules are called laws, and these laws give us freedom. I can't be the only one who sees the irony of this. So what happens when you don't follow these freedom laws? You go to a particular place called prison, also known as a correctional facility. Sounds fun, huh? But seriously, crimes are bad news. A few people seem to disagree though. So today we will give you a short review of 8 of the most dangerous prison inmates recorded. Number 8, Charles Bronson. Michael Gordon Peterson was born in 1952, and like most of the dangerous men on our list, he turned to a life of crime and earned himself a permanent spot in prison. He was incarcerated over the list of terrible crimes he had committed in his time as a civilian. Some of these crimes include armed robbery, charges of assault, grievous bodily harm, blackmail, and forced imprisonment. Michael Gordon Peterson has gone by many names, one of which is his most famous alias. In his youth, he was known as Charles Bronson, coined after the name of a famous American actor he idolized. Charles spent a lot of his early life going in and out of prison for minor infractions, and during that period became a violent and hardened criminal. He also picked up bare-knuckled boxing and became a legend in the streets of East End London. His crimes and criminal methodologies were so violent and intricate that a movie was made about him and his cowardly life on the wrong side of the law. The role of Charles Bronson was played by famous actor Tom Hardy, who starred in the 2008 movie Bronson. The English career criminal chose to change his name again and currently goes by the name Charles Arthur Salvador. A new leaf maybe? Who knows, but we do know that Charles Arthur Salvador Bronson is imprisoned as a permanent resident at H.M. Woodhill in Milton Keynes, England. In 2019, the British press named Bronson the most violent prisoner in the country for his continued acts of violence, even in a correctional facility. We have heard, however, that he has taken up painting as an art to express himself and work out his issues. Number 7, Charles Manson. Although this particular inmate has been deceased since 2017, he was no less dangerous than most of the terrifying men who have unfortunately made their way into our list of the most dangerous but incarcerated criminals. Charles Manson was responsible for masterminding the murder of 9 people. He used to be detained at the California State Prison, where he eventually served out his life sentence. This particular inmate spent most of his youth as an unemployed ex-convict and did a lot of time in correctional facilities across California. Perhaps the most concerning thing about this particular inmate is the amount of influence he wielded over other criminals and the crimes they committed, even though he was in a maximum security prison. At one point in 1968, he became obsessed with the Beatles and their self-titled record, also known as the White Album. Charles Manson was psychologically disturbed and was deranged enough to convince himself into thinking that the song Helter Skelter was a call to arms for the beginning of an apocalyptic race war. Manson did not remain alone in his delusions and managed to gather a band of like-minded criminals and formed a cult known as the Manson family. Number 6, Barry Mills. Coming in at number 6, we have Barry Mills, one of the most notorious criminals to ever grace the walls of a correctional facility. Barry Mills was known by his alias, the Baron. When he was first convicted on charges of robbery, the Baron was imprisoned at the California State Prison. After his release, he joined a gang called the Aryan Brotherhood for protection. He rose the ranks quickly, and by the 70s and 80s, he had already become the leader of the gang turned criminal organization. As an inmate, the Baron was responsible for masterminding some of the most horrific and depraved prison riots in the state. He was also known to have orchestrated and organized an effective system of drug dealers and violent prison gangs across the United States. Barry Mills passed away in 2018 at the age of 70. However, he was one of the most dangerous prison inmates on our list. Number 5. Thug Behram. Thug Behram was the leader of an Indian crime syndicate known as the Thuggies. The organization is one of the oldest known to man, with a history of evil activities dating as far back as the 1300s. Thug Behram, during his time as the organization's leader in the 18th and 19th century, could be said to have been the world's most prolific and violent serial killer. On record, he is said to have murdered 931 people by strangulation. He was captured by a British organization known as the East India Company. Unsure about the kind of measures to take with such a dangerous person, they tied him with a rope and stuck him into a well to await his execution. The organization which Behram headed was notorious for its unspeakable crimes, and some people even speculate that the word thug, which is used to classify a person that behaves in a disorderly manner, is derived from the Sanskrit term for their organization, Thuggies. Number 4. The Red Ripper. Next on our list, we have one of the scariest criminals to walk the planet. His name was Romanov Chikatilo. He was an insane serial killer who roamed during the era of the Soviet Union. Also known as the Butcher of Rostov and the Rostov Ripper, he was convicted of many terrible and heinous crimes with multiple counts of murder. He committed several counts of sexual assault, mutilation, and the murder of over 43 women and children, all within 1970 to 1990. During one of his numerous trials, he confessed to the murder of 56 people. Although he was never able to provide further information on the whereabouts of the bodies and the details of their murders, it was still under high suspicion that he had committed far more grievous acts than had ever been discovered or mentioned. After decades of roaming through desolated mining towns and impoverished small towns and cities committing these crimes, he was eventually imprisoned and sentenced to death in October 1992. Number 3. Ted Kaczynski. In the classic comic book storyline of a super genius turning to super villainy, this particular inmate was blessed with an amazing intellect and an uncanny aptitude for math. The inmate's name was Theodore John Kaczynski. He was born in 1942 in the city of Chicago, USA. Despite being a prodigy, he instead chose a life of crime and became popularly known as the Unabomber. Ted Kaczynski was convicted on 10 counts of mailing and transporting bombs, as well as 3 counts of murder. Despite his numerous talents, he chose to inflict chaos and destruction on the world due to his intense hatred for the US government. Currently, Ted is being held as an inmate at ADX Florence, Colorado, a supermax facility that is believed to be impenetrable. He is serving 8 separate sentences of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. What makes him so dangerous is that unique mind of his and his machinations. No one really knows whether or not he'll be the star of the next Prison Break movie. Maybe for real this time. Scary, right? Number 2. Rodney Alcala. Coming in at number 2, we have the dating game killer. This guy was just as sneaky and scary as it could get. His name was Rodney James Alcala, and he was born in 1943. This guy was named the dating game killer because he was seen to have appeared on a popular TV show from the 90s called The Dating Game. Rodney Alcala was a handsome man, and he used this as a tool to capture most of his victims in the 1970s. After the police force apprehended him, he was thoroughly investigated and interrogated. It turned out that Rodney was a psychotic murderer. He would kidnap his victims, strangle them till they lost consciousness again and again. It was all a game to him. After he had murdered the victim, he would put their corpse in storage poses and take multiple pictures. For posterity's sake, maybe? Who knows? When he was arrested, pictures of over 1,000 victims were found. The scary part is that some of them are yet to be identified. The extent of his evil could never truly be exposed. Currently, he is serving as a death row inmate at the California State Prison. Number 1. Michael SWANGO. At the top of our list is a killer so unassuming and unexpected that the true number of victims murdered is still unknown. He worked at the last place you would ever think to find a serial killer, a hospital. His name was Michael Joseph SWANGO. Currently, he has been sentenced to 3 counts of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole at the ADX Florence Supermax prison. Michael SWANGO was a doctor responsible for the murder of over 60 people. This list including his wife, patients, and even colleagues. His mode of operation was to use his position as a doctor to enter the rooms of unsuspecting patients and inject poisonous substances into their IVs. It all began after he interned at Ohio State University in 1983. He was assigned to the university's medical center, where a series of inexplicable deaths occurred among seemingly healthy patients who were being treated on his wing. The terrifying part of it all was the fact that this killer managed to stay under the radar for decades. He was in and out of prison but for unrelated crimes and continued to practice medicine until he was exposed. Who knows just how many people died from his special treatments. That's it, folks. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button.